All right. You see we have some participants joining us. So I'm actually going to make City of Hampton staff the co-host, just in case of anything. And Garrett, I'm getting ready to promote you, panelist. All right, and so I'm going to do a sound and video check for those that are presenting and speaking tonight based on the speakers list that I received. So the first person to speak, I believe, is Guy, and I'm not sure if they are here just yet. So I will move on to the next person, which would be, I see Pat Fields. So I'm going to promote you real quick. And then Timothy Fletcher, I will promote you both just to make sure that we can hear and see you.
Did we have, I'm sorry to see it, I missed it. Did we have Guy for Two Thoroughbred? Was he here?
I don't see him yet. I also made you co-host so that you would be able to see and promote people in the case of anything, just to make sure you have backup. Dr. Lett, can I get a sound check on you real quick?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you just fine. Great. Linda Ellis, would you mind getting on video and turning on your mic? I'll probably ask to unmute and request to start video just so we could do a video and sound check. Okay, I can't hear you. You're still on mute.
Unmute. Now,
There-
can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. And now if you were able to move your camera down just a little bit or up so we can see more of your face. There we go.
There we go.
There we go. Now we're not seeing just the top of your eyes. Perfect. All right. So you can go back on mute if you like and on video until about 5 o'clock.
Okay.
All right. So Pat Fields and Timothy Fletcher, I'm going to request to unmute and to do your video as we're doing a video chat. I'm sorry, video testing and sound check. Just to make sure when it's your time to speak, we don't have any technical problems.
Okay.
Yep, I see you. Very good, very good. All right, so now that I've got you in clear, when it's your time to talk, you'll be promoted in the same way, and we'll ask to unmute and do your video, so you're good to go. So please don't take offense, but I'm getting ready to put you back on as an attendee. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Fletcher.
And then do we have Pat Fields?
Yes.
Pat Fields.
Oh, yes. Oh, you do not have video.
I'm not presenting anything. I'm just sitting in.
Oh, okay. Okay. So we'll be able to still, if you'd like to speak, you're just sitting in, we'll go ahead and put you in, but you won't be on video. Okay, good enough. We'll go ahead and put you back as an attendee, and thank you for attending.
And
All
then
right.
for 112 Manteo, I'm sorry, I have the Andertons.
Let's see. Yes, I got them both. I'm getting ready to promote them, Dan and Ramona. And then we've got Matt Hilton as well.
Yes.
All right, so I see two Matt Hiltons. That could be two different logins, but I'm going to promote anyway. Dan and Ramona, can you talk so we can make sure we hear you clearly?
Can you hear us?
Yes, and we see you very well. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put you back as attendees. We just wanted to do a sound and video check, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
And so I'm getting ready to, I thought I was promoting.
Matt
I've got
Hilton.
Matt Hilton, one, and then there's another Matt Hilton. I'm going to promote both of them just so I can know, but I'll need either one to turn on. I'm going to ask to unmute both and do their video.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, 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 yes. And I'm going to ask to, oh, it's going to allow me to do the video on this one. What's going on there?
Is the other, is this the only one we need, Mr. Hilton? The one that we can currently see your video on now?
Yeah, I realized my computer doesn't have a monitor or a camera.
Oh,
So-
got it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename and say Matt Hilton video so that I don't promote the wrong one, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, not a problem. So I'm going to go ahead and put you back as attendee and welcome along.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. And then we have the Rolfs for 818 North First Street.
Yes, so I've got both. Oh wait, let me put Matt as back. There we go. And all right, we've got the Rolfs. Yeah, Susan, promote, and there's two Susan Rolfs, so this may be the same scenario, but we'll find out. Ask to unmute. And show video.
Susan, do you have video?
Just. Oh, hi.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, we both have it.
Yes.
We only need
So
one of us.
you only need one. So whichever one you prefer, you can log off of either one and then we'll know which one to promote.
Okay. Did you just log off of that one? Okay, we're good.
Okay, we're good. All right. So if you take off the other one, then this one is all the one we need.
Okay, just a minute. I think he's... Just sign out. I'm trying to sign out. So weird. Okay, I think we're good now. Sorry about
Okay,
that.
there we go. No, it's okay. We run into this all the time. So no
Good.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and put you back as an attendee and we'll
Okay.
see you when it's your time to talk.
Sounds
And then
good. Thank you.
So I think we hit all of the applicants. Is there anybody else who has signed up to speak that is currently in the attendees? Can we, if you could click the raise your hand button, if there's anybody else that would like to speak that we have not checked in with. I didn't have anybody else signed up to speak, but to see, I'm going to go ahead and promote the phone number there, the 979-9215.
Sure.
See if we can hear from them to see if that is one of our applicants.
Okay.
The applicant for 2 Thoroughbred.
Just ask to unmute.
The person who's called in, the 979-9215.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
And what was
Hello?
your name? Oh, we can hear you.
My name is David Six.
Okay. And are you speaking on one of the cases?
No, I'm not speaking on. I couldn't get in no other way but to do it on the phone. I punched in that thing, but it's not working.
Okay, so you can't. Okay, so but you are not requesting to speak on any of the cases.
No.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, then there we go. So now they're attendee. So we got a couple of people in here. There's a Tara Reichardt, a Tina Sanika, and those are the only two that I see on here that I don't have on the list to speak.
Okay.
Do we want to allow to talk?
Yeah, let's do that. I don't have them signed up to speak, but we'll give them an opportunity.
Okay, so first I'm going to do Tara or Tara. I apologize if I'm butchering your name. but I'm going to ask to unmute you so that you can let us know if you are signed up to speak.
No, I'm just here trying to gather information. That's it.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Okay, thank you so much. We'll put you back on as an attendee.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thanks. And then I'll go ahead and do Tina Sanika. I asked to unmute. All right, Tina, are you here to speak on behalf of any of the cases?
I'm just here to observe.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you so much.
Well, thank you everyone for bearing with us while we did our sound and video check. That will hopefully make the meeting go a little smoother now that we know everybody has access and can use their microphone. So that's great. Before we officially get started, I just have a couple of items I want to just let everyone know about. To the BZA members, and there's a little bit of a lag when you first unmute to speak. So when you go to vote, please say "my vote is" and then your vote, rather than just saying your vote. That way, if it takes a minute after you unmute to say it, we get what your actual vote is. And then I'm sure you noted on the application or on the agenda, but 2 Thoroughbred has requested a deferral. So you will have to still make a vote on that to accept or deny the deferral, but just be aware they have requested that, and staff has agreed as well. And then once the meeting begins, I'll make the official request, but we are asking to hear the 240 Hall Road applications, to hear them second. So after the deferral case, we're asking to hear those next, since our staff person has another public meeting to get to. You will, if there's general consensus on that, we don't need to take a vote, but we will just need general consensus. And then applicants and speakers, I think everyone was an applicant, but after we get the meeting going, I will, at the very beginning, after I make a couple more announcements, I'm going to have everyone will be promoted to a speaker, and we're going to do a joint swearing in. So we will have our court reporter, Ms. Dana Allen, will guide us through that process, but everyone will kind of swear in at once. So just be prepared for that. And then after that, we'll send you back to the attendee status until your actual case comes up, at which point you'll have the opportunity to speak on your case. So that's all I have for the pre-meeting.
You took all my thunder away.
I'm sorry about that, Mr. Pope.
All right, just doing a time check. We have 2 minutes until go live. So I will be just the person behind the scenes, and I'll be very quiet. If there's anything that starts to happen midway and you don't reach me, Hannah and staff, you are the co-host, so you also have the controls, okay? But as of right now, I'll go ahead and manage everything. You are doing the presentations as well, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. All right, guys, have a great meeting. But I'm here, but just have a great meeting.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. And if anybody has any trouble or is kicked out, or if anybody has recently joined us, there is the blue square that you'll see, and it says if you're having difficulty hearing, email CDD zoning or call that number there. So you can go ahead and give that number a call, send them an email if you're having any trouble, and one of our staff members, Garrick, will be happy to assist you.
The Board of Zoning Appeals for the City of Hampton for February the 1st, please come to order. We have some rule changes. Ms. Sabo, will you go over those?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chairman Pope. So this meeting is being held electronically due to COVID-19 pandemic, and all members of the BZA are participating from remote locations to undertake statutorily required business. Applicants and speakers, once the public hearing begins, which it has, we will let you know when it's your time to speak. And at that point, you will be given permissions to go ahead and turn your mic and camera on to speak to the board. When you call your name to speak, please click raise hand on your computer. It's under the webinar controls, and that way it's easy for us to find you. Applicants will have 10 minutes to speak and citizens have 3 minutes. You'll hear a beep when you have 30 seconds left and another beep when your time is up. If you have any issues, please see the help box there with our email and phone number to contact Garrick. He is one of our city planners and he's happy to help you. And please note this meeting is being recorded and it'll be posted and available online. Now, if we could get all speakers and staff presenters to go ahead and turn your mics on, and we're going to do a group swearing in. I'm going to just see, I'll start from the bottom and promote people. Give us just a minute, Dana, while we can.
Did we formally call the meeting to order? Did they all say that?
Oh, I'm sorry. We'll wait until we call the meeting to order. We have, I'm sorry about that, until we have taken a roll. Sorry about that. We'll do our roll first.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Please call the roll.
Dr. Hasselquist,
Here.
Mr. Harris,
Here.
Dr. Lett,
Here.
Chairman Pope,
Here.
Vice Chair Ellis.
Here.
All right, we have one set of minutes from January the 11th. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from January 11th.
I second.
Call the roll, please.
Dr. Hasselquist,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Dr. Lett,
Yes.
Vice Chair Ellis,
Abstain.
Chairman Pope.
Yes. The first thing we have to consider is 2 Thoroughbred Drive, case 0002. They request a delay until their March meeting. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion that we accept their deferral request until March 1st.
I second the motion for deferral.
Call the roll, please.
Dr. Hasselquist,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Dr. Lett,
Yes.
Chairman Ellis, or Vice Chair Ellis, sorry,
Yes.
Chairman Pope.
Yes. The next case to be heard is a little bit out of order, but it's case 00023, and it's for 240 Hall Road.
Chairman Pope, I'm sorry, before we, can we just get?
No, we have to swear the people in, I'm sorry.
Yes, let's swear the people in. We'll go ahead and promote everyone to do the joint swearing.
Can everyone raise your right hand, please? Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth to help you God?
I do.
I do.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And Mr. Pope, if we could get if we could hear, if it's okay with the board, I would like to ask that we rearrange the agenda just a little bit to hear the last 2 items, which are the 240 Hall Road items, if we could hear them at this point, and then rather than at the end of the meeting.
Okay, that's fine. We want to hear case 20023 for 240 Hall Road.
All right, give me just a moment while I bring up that presentation. And presenting today will be Allison Eichley. Good evening, board members. As indicated, I am presenting variance 20-23 and 20-24, both for 240 Hall Road. The requests are to reduce the required special green area for the rear and side from 20 feet and 5 feet to 0 feet. This property is located in the Beach Roads Estate area of Grandview, as shown outlined here, the entire extent of the parcel on Hall Road. The property is currently zoned R33, single family residential. I've shown here Beach Road there along the north end, so you can see where this is along Hall Road. This property is in the overlay district of Chesapeake Bay Preservation. You can see here our GIS overlay estimate is slightly different than the site-specific one, which is shown here. So via site-specific resource delineation, staff confirmed the extent of the wetland boundaries out to this portion of the property, much closer to the road than indicated in the GIS version, with the RPA buffer extending towards the street all the way here, shown in yellow, and the RMA being the remainder of the property. As a refresher of what special green area is, this is just a diagram to indicate, you can think of special green area as a moat intended to surround the house to ensure that new single family houses have adequate yard space outside of the RPA buffer or IDA. And again, this extends kind of from the house as a sort of moat. And it does have to be, per the ordinance, outside of the buffer. Council adopted this as a proposed solution or intent to provide, as I mentioned, a yard. So here are some examples where new houses were built kind of right up to this densely vegetated RPA line, and homeowners were not aware that they would not be able to remove that vegetation and were not going to be able to have a yard space. So that is the intent of the special green area. The actual ordinance language, there are a couple of different sections here. So Chapter 9, Article 2, Section 17.1, special green areas laid out as being for 1 and 2 family duplex townhouses and multifamily developments, where it does extend from the primary structure on the sides and rear. It's required to be 5 and 20 feet, which is what they're requesting the variance from. Furthermore, in section 17.3, this is where it specifically indicates that the special green area shall not be located in the 100-foot RPA buffer, as I've mentioned. And there is some relief provided for this requirement under section 17.5, which does reduce the required front setback, among other things, to 15 feet, which is applicable in this property when there isn't sufficient space outside of the buffer for the special green area and buildable area. So here's a photo of the property, which is currently vacant. You can see it is a rather densely wooded non-tidal wetlands that extend to tidal wetlands in the back. So this is kind of all RPA buffer area or actual feature. This is their site development plan for the proposed single family house proposed to be built. You can see this property line is in dark black, the heavier line. This is the street here at Hall Road. The house is outlined in red. The actual wetland feature is this purple dash line in the back here, and the RPA buffer is this yellow line 100 feet off of that RPA feature. So as you can see from this, that the house will encroach into the RPA buffer. There isn't space for the house to not encroach into the buffer itself, even including a reduced front setback. This slide shows you their proposed landscaping plan, which includes their mitigation required for both the septic field and the single family house proposed. This green line here shows you the extent of the limits of disturbance, which, so waterward or away from the street, this would all be densely vegetated, kind of that existing forest. These are proposed plants that are being added as mitigation, but you can see the house here, and there is some amount of yard area still allowed that are as part of the limits of disturbance. This shows you the proposed front elevation of the house, part of the building plans that were submitted. So to review in more detail the setback considerations, as I mentioned previously, the front setback is able to be reduced to 15 feet as a relief from the special green area requirements. Here you can see that the house is proposed at 16 feet back, and that is due to additional requirement that porches be a minimum of 10 feet from the front property line. They can only project 10 feet has to remain between them, a porch and the front property line. And in this case, a porch is required as under the building code. They do have to have a landing place as well as steps down to grade. This property is in the flood zone where the finished floor elevation will have to be at least 10 feet, with grade being approximately 5 to 5.5 feet. So that is, they are within the constraints of the building code requirements and zoning requirements, and moved it as far forward as feasible. So to summarize, it is currently vacant, zoned for single family. Staff is coordinated to do a specific resource delineation to determine the extent of the wetlands on this property, which are extensive. There was not enough space outside of the RPA to accommodate the required 2,000 square feet of dwelling area for this zoning district. And the applicant is requesting these 2 variances in order to be able to build that house without the special green area, because it does have to be outside of the RPA, which is not possible in this property. Staff considered that that is true and determined that this does pose an undue hardship or unreasonable restriction of the property, and that hardship is not created by the applicant. Therefore, staff is recommending approval of variance 20-23, which is the rear special green area, and then VA 20-24, which would be for the sides. There are recommended conditions, which are, you can find more specifically within the staff report, and they are listed here as well. I'm available for any questions.
Does anybody on the staff have a question? I mean, does anybody on the board have a question of the staff?
I do have a question. Have you approved the plans based on whether the applicant is given the variance?
So we are not able to approve the building permit with respect to zoning until they have the variance, because that is necessary for zoning approval. There are no other zoning or public works concerns. They have passed kind of that. There is a remaining item under the plan review. So that is just a technical detail of the plans that they requested in our plan review team. So other than the variance and that technical detail, they would be able to build, if that was answering your question.
And you have looked at the vegetation, the mitigation that they are going to do because of the encroachment, and you have approved the mitigation plan that they have submitted?
Correct. So that would be part of the by right development within the RPA permitted development. We did review that administratively and determined that what they proposed does meet within the RPA permitted development section.
Okay, thank you.
So, any other questions?
Yeah, I just have one question. If there's no sewer line hookups back there on Hall Road, even though there's a big new development back there and all with the Ash Meadows?
That's a very good question. There is a sewer line, but it is more than 250 feet away, which is our public works determination for when a sewer septic field would be allowable. I am aware that the property to the north, I believe it's 326 Hall Road, had installed an extension through multiple properties using a pump station, but that was because their property was entirely within wetlands and they would not be able to have a septic field, not from us, but from the Army Corps, I believe it was. So in this case, they are able to, because they can put it near the street and it's outside of the actual feature. So there is a sanitary sewer, but it is so far away that it is not feasible for this particular property, and this septic was permitted, or is permittable.
Have the plans for the septic system been reviewed by Public Works?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions the board has of the staff? Okay, do we have any speakers?
Yes, the applicant, I believe, has signed up to speak. Yes, Timothy Fletcher is the applicant and is, I believe, available if there's any questions for him.
Let's try this again. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can now.
Well, I think Allison has done a wonderful job in summary of the conditions we're dealing with and presentation of the issues with trying to have the special green areas, which simply can't be established here. We did our best in coming up with the house location to maximize that one triangle of area outside the buffer. You can notice that the house is centered on that and pushed as far forward on the property as possible. I really don't have much of anything to add to Alice's summary explanation.
Does the board have any questions of the applicant? Do I hear a motion?
And just for the record, Mr. Pope, we did not have anybody else signed up to speak. I do want to give them a moment to click the raise your hand button if there is anybody else who would like to speak.
Okay.
Not seeing any. Give it back to you, Chairman Pope.
Okay, does anybody have a motion?
Are we going to do this for both of them at the same time, or do we have?
We're doing 23 first. Can't do but one at a time.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve the variance request for VA 20-23. Not to approve it would render this lot or parcel not usable for what it's zoned for, which is single family.
Do I hear a
Phil,
second?
is that with the staff recommended conditions? I'm sorry to interrupt. This is Bonnie.
Yes, that is with staff recommended conditions.
Thank you, ma'am.
Do I hear a second?
I believe Dr. Hasselquist seconded the motion.
Yeah, I
but
think Dr. Hasselquist, he's trying to second.
You need to unmute your mic so we can get you on the tape, please. Say again.
Me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what happened. I second it and
Okay. Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Dr. Hasselquist,
yes.
Mr. Harris,
yes,
Dr. Lett,
Yes.
Vice Chair Ellis,
Yes,
Chairman Pope.
Yes. Now we go to 0024. Do I hear a motion on that?
I'll make a motion to approve the variance request, which is in conjunction with 23 for the requested side yard green space. That will allow the homeowner to build the house with, and also I would put in there that it would be in compliance with staff approval.
Do I hear a second?
Is that also with
I
staff?
second.
Yes, yes, with staff recommendations, yes.
I second it.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Dr. Hasselquist,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
yes,
Dr. Lett,
Yes.
Vice Chair Ellis,
Yes,
Chairman Pope.
Yes. The next case is for 0017 112 Manio Avenue.
Thank you. And we have City Planner Joseph Denny who is making that presentation.
Right. So as Hannah said a moment ago, my name is Joseph Denny. I'm a city planner here with the City of Hampton, and I will be presenting today variance request 20-17 at 112 Manteo Avenue. So this is a variance request to increase the rear yard coverage for accessory structures from 20% to 39% to allow for a new covered porch, sunroom, and covered walkway. The property is located south of Kicktan Road, between Kicktan Road and Chesapeake Avenue, as seen here on the map, and the parcel is 112 Manteo, as seen here. The parcel is located within the R13 zoning district, and it is also within the infill housing overlay, since the dimensions of the parcel do not meet the current dimensional standards for the zoning district. So the relevant zoning ordinance section here is from section 1-24 regarding accessory buildings and structures. So this states that accessory buildings or structures shall not occupy more than 20% of the rear yard area. So for a little bit of the history with the site development here, in 2013, a 24-foot by 30-foot garage, which is seen here, was permitted and built. So that has about maxed out the 20% rear yard coverage as is. So the current proposal is to build a covered deck area, a covered sunroom, and a covered walkway as accessory structures in the rear yard. So just as a quick refresher, the city classifies the rear yard as being everything from the rearmost plane of the house back to the rear property line. And the proposed development is, again, shown here. So the existing house is outlined in orange, and the existing garage, which was permitted in 2013, is also outlined in orange. Covered walkway, covered deck area, and the sunroom is outlined here in red. So something to keep in mind here is when calculating rear yard coverage area for accessory structures, this includes not just the structures themselves, but it also includes all of the area under the roof structure. So the building plans shown here, submitted as part of the application, show this a little bit more clearly. It covers a little bit more broad of an area. And so this is entirely within the rear yard. It is a roof structure which does not attach to the house. It is just freestanding on its own accessory structure in the rear yard. So staff considerations on this property: the applicant has not demonstrated that strict application of the ordinance with respect to the 20% coverage rule would cause an unreasonable restriction of utilization of the property. They've been allowed to have their up to 20% rear yard coverage, and again, have not demonstrated that this would be an unreasonable restriction. So with this in mind, staff recommends denial of VA 20-17. However, if the board is moved to recommend approval, staff recommends the condition that the accessory structures are built in conformance with what was submitted as part of the proposed plan. And I am available to take any questions.
Does the board have any questions of the staff?
Yeah, I have a question. Is all these structures being built on top of the concrete slab?
Right, so based on the site development plan submitted, it does appear that they are going to be built on top of that concrete slab.
So there's not much green back there whatsoever, correct?
Based on the aerial imagery as well as the site development plan proposed, it appears that most of the rear yard is covered by the concrete slab.
Yeah, that's more concerning to me than the structures, but thank you.
I have a question. Is this lot considered an infill lot?
Yes, ma'am. So it is in the R13 zoning district, and since it does not meet the minimum dimensional standards with respect to how much frontage it has, as well as since it does not meet that requirement for the kind of dimensional standards for frontage, lot area, it is considered to be an infill lot.
And what is the dimension in addition for the sunroom? Is it a sunroom and the walkway? The walkway will be covered, so it is in part all of included in all of the amount that he's asking for, correct?
Yes, ma'am. So the coverage value includes the freestanding roof structure over the deck, as well as the sunroom and the covered walkway. Those are all being counted towards the accessory structure coverage value.
And what is that calculation?
It works out to about 38.1% rear yard coverage, including the frame garage, which is to remain.
But the garage is already there, so that shouldn't be considered in this coverage.
Well, so
they had a permit for their garage. So what we're only considering, not the garage, but all we're considering is the sunroom and the walkway, the covered walkway, correct?
So what is being considered with this is it's already at 20% rear yard coverage. So the roof structure over the deck is counting towards the value, as well as the sunroom and the covered walkway. So all of those get added together. The 20% value for the rear yard coverage includes all accessory structures within the rear yard.
Right. So when they got the permit for the garage, they basically maxed out their 20%.
Effectively.
Right.
Are there any other questions?
Yes, I have a question. Is there any disability or anyone of ill health or anything as to why they're asking for more coverage?
The applicant did not specifically call out a disability or concern along those lines, to my memory, in their application. However, the contractor, Mr. Hilton, as well as the applicants, the Andertons, are here, and they would be able to potentially speak to it if they do have a concern, which just was not addressed previously.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of the staff? Do we have a speaker?
Yes, the applicant has signed up to speak, and they have also submitted some photos, so I will bring those up. And these photos were also emailed to the board for easy viewing. And so we have the applicants, Mr. Hilton and the Andertons. So I'm not sure who wants to speak first, but in total, you'll get a total of 10 minutes for the applicant to speak. And I'll go ahead and bring up those photos that you submitted.
Okay. Can y'all hear me okay? This is Matt Hilton.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'll just do a good evening, board members. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Matt Hilton with Hilton Builders. I'm working with Dan and Ramona. We've done some projects to the front of their house, some improvements, some beautifications to the front of their house there, and I'm assisting them with this process, getting through the permit process here. But for now, I'd like to just turn the time over to Dan Anderton so he can explain the project in more detail.
Thank you for hearing us. Just a little bit of history. In 2019, we decided to prepare for future retirement by leaving the Washington, D.C. area. We lived up in Maryland. It had been a 2 to 5 year plan. It became a 2 month plan, but we studied many possible locations, but fell in love with the Norfolk area and found our home in Old Wythe because it met the following ideals. We were looking for a neighborhood that felt good and was beautiful. We wanted to downsize and move to a warmer and calmer area closer to water and beaches. We were looking to move to 1-story living with a minimum of stairs. Some of the decisions to move up our plans were based on my missing a step at our previous home and breaking my foot. And also my wife has had continuing foot and knee problems that had been going on for years. And so we wanted to move to a 1-story living. It also was possible because I became more and more working remotely. So we found the home and purchased it in October 2019 because it fit the qualities we were looking for. Unfortunately, there was our property that we bought and the adjacent property to it, which the seller was the same seller. They were offering it as a one property or two properties together, either or. We could not negotiate a deal or come up with a purchase price that they were agreeable to. And we found out that they had actually had offers from builders already that were much higher than we could afford. So we ended up buying the one property, which is the side that we're looking at. We were excited because it met all our criteria. We were happy that it had a garage, and but we were unhappy about the backyard and the lack of quality outdoor living space, which you can see in the pictures that are on there. This is looking towards the garage, and there's a second picture that looks towards the house. Concurrently, after we purchased last spring, they built the house next to us, which is the large one that you see there on the property that was the green space and was owned by the same person we bought the property from. After the renovations, we moved into our home in 2019. We made many improvements to the front yard, including replacement of the concrete stoop and walk with brick, added a deck railing and handrails for safety, and landscaped the yard. It was a fortunate decision because of the foot problems and subsequent surgery of my wife that put her in a non-weight bearing cast for 12 weeks last summer and fall. We quickly learned that she could not get out of the back stairs, too dangerous because there's no rails and it has no landing area in the back. But we were fortunate to have put the rail in the front. As you can see, the rear yard is mostly a concrete motor court. Ramona actually calls it the concrete jungle. And we really would like to create a nice environment with a safer exit from the house and to the garage while not losing the ability to park cars in the garage and continue to maneuver auto turnarounds in the motor court. So we've come before you to ask for approval to fulfill the vision that we have for our rear yard, which is shown in the drawings. This vision includes having a sun porch area, which is 11 by 16 or about 176 square feet of the project, approximately 5% of the rear yard. We want to create a four-season sun porch to act as a comfortable retreat and quiet space. We want to make it heated and cooled so that we can use it as an exercise area for a cardio, treadmill, and recumbent bike. The treadmill and recumbent bike are actually in the garage right now, and it would sure make a lot more space for the cars if we could get them out of there and put them someplace else. We also want to create an indoor space for our grandchildren to play when they come to visit us. We have 4 children and 8 grandchildren living up and down the East Coast. The second portion of it is the covered deck or porch area, which is an open porch area that's approximately 3% of the rear yard. It's 15 by 17. That would allow us to transition from the rear of the house at the same level as the house floor. It'll also allow us to move the steps further from the house to create a larger landing area outside of the back door, which will increase the back door approach safety area into our house by providing more area for handrails. And the third thing it does is it allows for us to have a possible future handicap ramp out of the house from the deck if it's needed. The entire structure is intended to be built as a post and beam construction to allow for rainwater to continue to flow under the structure without obstruction. Third element is the covered walkway, which would allow us to get from the house to the garage and the parking area with under roof out of the rain and the snow. Actually, the past few days have reinforced to us why it's a good idea to have this. The covered walkway would also allow for some trellis work to be done as part of the structure to allow for vines and additional landscape potential and to help screen from the big house next door now. We've already installed the fence that we showed on the plans and have contracted to remove some of the concrete along the fence line to create a planting area next to the fence. We also realize now how expensive it is to remove concrete. So this gives us the ability to create a transitional site buffer and screening for our house to the new story house next door. And the the screen next door house massing, well, it'll allow us to do it without interrupting the power utility lines. It'll also allow us to screen the views from the upper windows and the lower windows on the new house. From an aesthetic point of view, we're trying to create the feel of an urban motor court and courtyard by enclosing and defining the space and upgrading materials, painting the garage doors, removing some of the concrete, possibly adding a small fountain for white noise and do additional landscaping. So we're trying to, this is the picture up right now is what the house looked like in the front before. We're trying to do the same to the back that we've done to the front and make it a nicer place for us to live both front and back. We thank you for your consideration of this variance. We recognize that city staff has recommended the denial, but we hope that given the circumstances, you will consider approval or approval with conditions based on substantial conformance to the drawings included in the packet. Thank you very much for your time.
Does anybody on the board have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
So, oh, go ahead.
Okay. Seeing that you have so much impervious surface there and with more rainwater runoff, have you looked at what you're going to do to capture the rainwater runoff from the new structures or increase any kind of green area that possible?
Yeah, he said he was going.
We are trying to increase the green area. We did a lot of landscaping on the right side already. We're trying to put the green space down on the fence line. We've started and put a partial drainage sump in the low spot area, which I need to increase. And we've also started to use some rain change and channeling in order to help direct water where we would prefer it to be. Right now, as you can tell, I think everything drains down to a low spot and a valley, which heads over towards the fence line where the new house is. And so we've worked on getting it so that it'll actually flow to the right places and not create any flooding any place.
Thank you.
You had said something about removing more concrete and doing more green area. Did I understand you right?
That's correct. Where you see the orange fence now, there was actually, they originally had concrete onto the other property. 5 feet of that's been removed. And we're going to remove another 5 feet between where the walkway will be and the fence line will be, and then plant in that area and make that green space.
Okay. And one more question. And the garage was already there when you purchased the house, is that correct?
Correct.
That is correct. What you see there is what we got, and when we bought it. And we love the garage because we love parking inside, and we like to keep the cars of snow and stuff off. Unfortunately, there's not as much snow down here, but we want to be able to continue to use it and without having as much concrete massing. So my vision or my idea is kind of like a European motor court or pedestrian court where we can get out. And you can see on there, there's blocks and the white boards. That's where we put it up where the edge of the sun porch would be, so we could practice and know that we could actually back out and maneuver in the backyard with the cars. So that's where the edge of the sun porch would be, is where those white board things are.
Any other questions?
So I'm sorry, I have one more question. It looks like you have some utilities back there. Have you taken into account of having to move those utilities?
What you're seeing back there, there's a hose bib, and that's it. The white pipes that are coming down, that's the drainage pipe for the heating system, the air conditioner. We want to take and channel those pipes together so that they're not hanging out of the back of the house. But all you're seeing back there is a pot with a plant in it and the hoses. And what I'll do is from that hose bib, I put a timer on it, Wi-Fi timer, and I'll run a hose out underneath there so that I can have the access to that hose. So, but that's all that's back there. There's all the utilities as far as meters and everything is on the house, on the side where the new house is.
Okay. Chairman, I have a couple of more questions, if that's okay.
Go right ahead.
Okay, so you're going to remove concrete, and you're going to do mitigation plantings, in essence, is what you're doing to remove the concrete and to increase the green space. So I'm trying to find a balance here between the removing of the concrete and how much additional green space you will have versus what you're asking for. Maybe I'm confusing people from what I'm saying here. Do you know how much additional concrete you are going to remove so that we can take that into consideration?
About 150 square feet, I think is what the number is.
Okay. And is that going to be green space when you remove it?
Yes, it's going to be green space. It's actually going to be planted with camellia and other plantings. That part of the planting plan has already been looked at.
Has the city seen that planting plan?
On the plan that they showed you, it shows it as an area that has the concrete removed and it shows it as green.
Okay.
It's on your package and it's along the fence line where that, yeah, you can get there.
Okay.
There it is on that plan. See where those plants are on the
Yes.
left side where they were?
Yeah.
There.
Okay, I see it there. I have a question for staff. Did you take into consideration the removal of the concrete and the additional green space and the plantings and everything when you did your calculation for the covered, the sunroom and the covered walkway and everything?
So the 20% limit on the coverage is for the structures. The amount of impervious area, since this is not within the Chesapeake Bay Preservation District, is not regulated. So that is not the existing concrete. Removal of concrete is not a consideration when calculating the amount of rear yard coverage by accessory structures.
Well,
I have a question.
okay.
How you doing, Mr. Anderson? I don't know if you mentioned it previous, and maybe I missed that. I know we talked about the removal of the concrete. So as far as runoff mitigation, how's that going to work between that and that green space area that you picked up? I don't know if you and Mr. Hilton have talked about that, or you mentioned that briefly with that removal. Have you looked at where that water will go, or where it goes right now, how it will be channeled when you pull up the concrete in that area?
I can tell you how it goes right now. It goes from the front of the garage in the back of the house into a swell that will go underneath the new sun porch deck area. That's why we're not taking it to the ground. It's going to post and beam construction. So the water flows underneath there and it goes down to the side of the house. And then there's a sump area over there, plus an overflow drainage channel, overland drainage out to the front of the house. And that's the way it's always been. We're trying to decrease the amount of concrete as much as possible, but still be able to use it, function as a auto turnaround in an area for the garage. So that's why we've taken out that one planting area, and that's why we're also have done improvements along the side of the house to make sure there's adequate drainage and proper drainage. It's been tested a few times already because of some of the heavy rains that we've had over the last few months, and it works. So.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions of the applicants? Do I have a motion?
Just for the record, Mr. Pope, there's nobody else signed up to speak, but if there is anybody who has signed on that would like to speak, I'll like to give them just a moment to click the raise their hand button.
Okay.
And not seeing anyone. I can officially say there's nobody else signed up to speak.
Okay, do I have a motion by the board?
I make a motion that we approve the variance with staff recommendations. And one of the reasons that I do this recommendation is that it is, even though it's in R13, it's an infill lot. He's been left with challenges on this lot because of all the concrete, and it would be encouraging, as the staff said, for him to make sure that if we do approve this variance, that he complies with the structure and the plans that have been submitted to the city, and the city would make sure that the removal of the concrete and the new plantings, the mitigation, is followed to the plan submitted. Sorry for rambling.
Is there a second?
I will second that motion. I want to make a quick statement. I'm glad that Mr. Dan and his wife moved here, and we love that. And that's an expansionism, and it's great to have people moving into the city instead of moving out. So we're trying to keep those residents here. And in this situation, I understand it could be an untenable situation. So I move to second that motion.
Call the roll, please.
Dr. Hasselquist,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Dr. Lett,
Yes.
Vice Chair Ellis,
Yes.
Chairman Pope.
Yes. We have one case left. It's 0021-818 North First Street.
Thank you. Again, we have City Planner Joseph Denny here.
All right, so as Hannah said, I will also be presenting this variance request number 20-21 for 818 North First Street. So this is a variance request to reduce the required front setback from 30.3 feet to 9 feet in order to construct a shed. So the property in question is located in the Buckrow area, north of the Buckrow Beach Park and Boardwalk. As seen here, it backs up to the Bayfront area, and it is located within the R11 zoning district. So one of the two relevant zoning ordinance sections for this property is from Chapter 4, Section 75, so regarding the required front yard, minimum 30 feet. However, lots of record prior to the adoption of this ordinance shall have a front yard equal to the average front yard in the block, but in no case less than 20 feet. However, no such front yard need be more than 60 feet. As well as Chapter 1, Section 1-24, which states that accessory buildings or structures shall be permitted in accordance with all setback requirements, height requirements for primary structures within the zoning district where constructed. So this is a request to build a 12-foot by 8-foot shed in the front yard as outlined here in green. It would be located 9 feet off of the front property line. This property previously came before the board in 2016 as part of VA 16-5, which reduced the front setback from the average of the block of 45.3 feet to the current requirement of 30.3 feet. And that was a variance which allowed for the building of this single family house. So what is before the board today is a further reduction in the front setback in order to build this 8x12 shed on the concrete driveway. So an important consideration regarding the physical characteristics of this lot is that since it is located on the bayfront area, from the RPA, from the line shown here in red back to the bay is located within the resource protection area of the Chesapeake Bay Preservation District, which would not permit a shed by right. It would have to go through a BZA process as well if it was creating new impervious area. And so here is just a little bit closer view of where the shed is proposed in the front drive area. Again, 9 feet off of the front property line. And so in addition, since this property is located within the VE coastal high hazard flood zone, there's some additional requirements regarding flood proofing on the plans. So the applicant, Ms. Rolfe, has submitted plans for review by the city, and we are currently working with the applicant on those plans. They're currently being reviewed by one of our plans reviewers. However, the submitted plans did include some sample elevations for the proposed shed, just so the board members have an idea of what this shed may look like if built. So for staff considerations with respect to this property, the rear yard is located almost entirely within the RPA. However, the applicants have not demonstrated that strict application of this ordinance would unreasonably restrict utilization of the property. They had the chance to come before the board once in 2016 and were given the opportunity to reduce the setback in order to build that single family house. They have not shown that the strict application of the ordinance, in this case of not further reducing the front setback, would unreasonably restrict utilization of the property. So with that in mind, staff recommends denial of VA 20-21. However, if the board is moved to approve the variance request, staff recommends the conditions that the shed is built in substantial conformance with the proposed plan, and in accordance with flood zone standards, the shed is constructed of flood-resistant materials and anchored to resist flotation. And I'm available to take any questions.
Does the board have any questions of the staff? Hearing none, do we have a speaker?
Yes, I believe the applicant has signed up to speak. So that would be the Rolfs. Stop sharing.
Hello. Am I ready to speak?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Okay, I'm sorry. So I did want to point out, first of all, that the shed will be on our existing concrete driveway. It will be in front of our house. So it will not go into any of the green area. It's going to match the house, so it'll be pretty. It won't block anybody's view. And I did want to give a little bit of our history. When we decided to build the house, and we're from Roanoke, actually, and we moved to the area because our grandchildren are there. We picked a certain architect because he had just designed and built a house that was 4 spots down from our lot, and it included a house and a garage. And so he originally designed our house for a house and a garage. After the design, Hampton City decided that they weren't going to allow garages at Buck Row. So we ended up having to redesign the house without the garage. We had gotten a contractor when we were getting ready to build the house, which was years after first putting the garage on there and going through approvals, and then taking the garage off and going through approvals. We then found out that I think Hampton City was allowing garages then again at that time. But we've already had years that have gone by where we were getting approvals. We are actually from Roanoke. We're not used to this harsh weather that they have at the beach. Anything that you leave out gets ruined. And unfortunately, our bedroom closets are filled with outdoor equipment. We've got pressure washers, ladders, bikes, tools, balcony furniture in our bedroom closets. So we moved here for our grandchildren. They've got 2 bedrooms downstairs, and their dresses and things aren't in the closets. It's the outdoor equipment. So that's one reason why we're asking for this shed. We would like to use our closets for the purpose intended instead of storage. We have noticed on First Street that there are a lot of sheds down First Street. They look like they're in the same area as ours. So I do appreciate your time and consideration with this matter. And that's about what I have to say.
I would like to add too that in the plans that we have drawn up, and we've had a professional engineer approve these plans, that there's going to be an 8-inch addition to the concrete drive, an additional 8 inches of concrete, and that's to provide for anchors, and these anchors are preventing moments and other wind variables. The structure is, it's got 4x4s as the corner posts, and it's taken into consideration of flooding and wave action. There are actually flood doors on the sides of the walls. So we've taken a little bit of time and effort to design this to, so it would not float and go away with the tides.
Honestly, we did what Joseph Denny had asked us to do. If we were gotten approval to do this, he said you would need to do this. And we would, that's what we agreed to do if you approve this.
Does the board have any questions of the applicant?
Is there a deck on the back of the house?
Yes.
Have you not considered putting the shed on the deck?
There's not a lot of room on the rear deck, and that was because of the size of the, we had to make considerations for the Chesapeake Bay water reserves and Army Corps of Engineers, and so that the area of the deck on the outside of the house is a little bit smaller just because of the house that we built.
Well, it looks like the deck comes around the side of the house. So you have a part of it on the back and a good portion, and then you have the part that comes to the right of the house. I'm assuming that's steps to go onto the deck.
Yes.
We do. That's just walking area. We couldn't put anything in that area.
Okay.
Additionally, the windows on the house, we took into consideration wind and rain at the beach, and they are windows that actually wheel out from the house. They're not sashed windows. And
you wouldn't believe what a difference it is weather-wise from the back of our house to the front of the house. We would be in the back of the house and it'll be freezing and windy. And then you go to the front of the house and it'll be nice and warm. It's really, we were shocked as how different it is from the front of the house to the back of the house. I'd be afraid to put anything. We really can't put anything on the balcony. We have everything in the closets and inside. The conditions in the back side of the house is a lot different than the conditions in the front of the house.
Chairman, I have a question for staff.
Okay.
I know that the applicants mentioned they've seen other houses with these sheds. How many do you know of, or have been other exceptions recently or in the last 5 to 10 years of the reason why other places have these sheds there in that same location or approximate location?
Right, so I am aware of at least a handful of variance requests that have been approved within the last, say, 20 years for sheds and or detached garages in the front yard. I think that for many of them, they were built before the adoption of the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Act. So they were built before those standards went into effect, kind of guiding regulation of proposed structures in the rear yard or else expansions to dwellings. So I think that with those, there was I think some of the logic the board used was effectively that the kind of structures, a lot of the structures on the lots were built before being aware of those regulations. Whereas I think in this particular case, it's kind of, this has come before the board in the last few years. So they're in order to build the house. So it's gotten the variance once, and kind of the Chesapeake Bay preservation laws were in effect at that point. So I think that that is kind of another reason why this may differ somewhat from some of the properties in the general Buckrow area.
Okay, thank you.
Having driven down there today, this house is very close to the road and it had to be shifted forward. I remember the case when it came before the board. So there's not a lot of room between the road and the house. The other ones, the houses were farther back than the front setback was much larger than what this house has.
Do you agree with that?
Thank you, Linda.
Yeah, Linda, I agree with Linda also. I think a lot of the other houses are smaller houses, so they have much larger setback. With the variance that we already gave this house, you're right, there's not a whole lot of space till you get to the road. I agree with you 100%.
Are there any other questions of the applicants? Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Pope.
Excuse me.
Just a minute, we did get a letter too, correct? Everybody got the letter from the board?
Yes, I was just going to bring that up. And while I'm bringing that up, I don't believe we had anybody else signed up to speak. But again, if you are here and would like to speak, please use the raise your hands button. But here I will go ahead and the board members were all emailed this, so I'm not going to read this to you. I'll just kind of scroll down it. And if the board is okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing that.
Could we go back to, could we go back to a picture of the shed they proposed to build?
Yes. Can you see that?
Yes, thank you.
One other question for the applicants. Let me see. I'm looking at the shed, the Rolfs. Did you ever try to get a, I know we mentioned, or Linda mentioned building a shed on the deck. Did you ever get any quotes or anything that could be possible in any manner that would be sufficient for your storage needs? Or just after looking at it and getting an overview, you decided that the best place was in the front?
The longest area of the deck, or largest length of the deck, is 13 feet from the house. So if we did try to put a shed on the deck, it would leave very little deck area left. And again, just the weather conditions and the increased wind velocities in the back, it would, I'm not sure I would trust a shed back there. I'd much rather anchor it on the cement driveway.
Understandable. Thank you, Mr. Rolfe.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions of the applicant? Do I have a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we deny the variance because the strict application of the ordinance would not unreasonably restrict utilization of the property.
I second that.
Call the roll, please.
Dr. Hasselquist,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
No.
Dr. Lett,
Yes.
Vice Chair Ellis,
Yes.
Chairman Pope.
No. It's, where did Miss Sabo go?
I'm sorry, our
Yeah, actually, we lost our microphone and video a
Okay.
little bit there. I wonder if you could you repeat what that motion was for me, Mr. Pope? I apologize. We were having some technical difficulties.
Mr. Hasselbeck?
with
Doctor?
Oh, you want me to do it all over again?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. I make a motion, I move that we deny the variance because the strict application, let's see, I've lost my page now. Strict application would not render, you can still utilize the property with strict application of the
Fine,
ordinance.
that's what we thought you said. Thank you.
Okay.
With that, then the applicant has 30 days to appeal.
Okay, sorry, thank you. Yes, it was denied. So the applicant, you have 30 days to appeal this to the circuit court.
Thank you. It was a pleasure working with you, Joseph, by the way, even if you did deny it.
Ma'am.
Thank you.
Is there anything else to come in front of the board?
We have nothing else.
Thank you. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.